Well, welcome everybody to Ride the Stream. If you're new, thank you for joining us. Hopefully, you'll go back and listen to all of our other recordings or watch our other recordings. But if you're returning, yay! We're glad you're here. We are so glad you're here. I am. Let's start off with the most important stuff. I'm Michelle. I'm one of the co-hosts, and I'm joined by my BFF, Travis. How you doing today?
I'm good. I'm so ready to talk about this episode. I I forgot about this episode. Like I didn't know when this was going to happen
Oh
and didn't
boy,
realize it was this
this
episode.
episode.
So, woo,
Oh boy.
yeah.
Oh my gosh. So, for everybody that's returning, you know that we do a plot synopsis. We generally chat about the scenes that really resonated with us or, had real impact on our viewing. And then we go into usually two or three questions, ones where we talk about our favorite character, our favorite scene, and then as the newbie, Travis will usually have a third question, maybe. Because I'm the resident newbie of this partnership, asking me about my initial thoughts and stuff and that kind of thing. So this will I don't think this conversation will disappoint. We got a lot to talk about, a lot to unpack today. So I think without further ado, shall I go ahead and do the plot summary? It's a little bit longer, and
It's
I'm going to tell
okay.
you if you have tender ears and don't like swearing, there are a couple of little swear words in there. So just so you know, just to be ready.
I had
Uh,
a description of a character that throws a little swear word in there too. We can talk about that later. But
I'm
yeah,
I'm gonna think that we might be talking about the same person because
that's a good chance.
I almost emailed you last night with that word in the subject line and like what? But anyway, without since we've got you on the edge of your seats now, we'll go ahead and get started. All right. This episode opens with a surprise. Saeed has gifted Shannon with her own hut and himself. Yeah, there's a love connection between them. And in post sex bliss, Shannon sees Walt in the doorway. Saeed doesn't see the boy, nor can he find any signs of Walt having been there. This leads to discord between the lovebirds because Saeed does not believe her. Now, to be fair, Saeed did not know that Shannon had found the bottle with the messages, so he was surprised when he learns this fact. This intel actually helps him to understand why Shannon is so sure that she saw Walt. Man, there's a lot of S's in that. I should have edited that a little better. But anyway, okay, so getting back to the current part of the episode, his disbelief in her kicks off this episode's flashbacks featuring Shannon's familial relationships in the aftermath of her dad's death. Cue evil stepmom encounters. Okay, maybe there's two swear words in this episode. Maybe there's two rather than one. But anyway, Mr. Echo, Jen, and Michael rejoin the beta group and they continue towards the original survivors camp, which I'm calling Alpha. Realizing Sawyer's declining health, Mr. Echo leads the group into the jungle so they can get to the Alpha group, Alpha camp faster. Although Sawyer tries to keep walking and to keep up with the rest of the group, he eventually passes out from the infection-induced fever he is going through. It did initially look as though Sawyer died. No! Okay. And in spite of their differences, Michael will not leave Sawyer behind. The group makes a stretcher so they can carry Sawyer because he didn't die, at least not yet. But anyway, one of the beta group members goes missing. Anna is very upset about this and she wants to go find her. But Mr. Echo stops her and tells her that they need to stay together. Anna says, this one, referring to the loss of another survivor from the group, is on him. So interesting, you know, insight there. Q whispers in the forest. So, in other couple news, we have Claire talks with John and reveals how she feels that Charlie's parental control over Aaron is a bit overbearing. John learns that Charlie has one of the drug-filled Virgin Mary statues in his possession. John finds that tidbit interesting. John teaches Claire about the power of swaddling the baby, and Aaron immediately quiets down to sleep. John gets to hold the baby. Oh, this
Great
was cute.
scene.
However, Charlie arrives and is none too happy with John holding the baby. Very interesting that. Later, John plays backgammon with Charlie, and when the musician speaks critically about Claire, now remember, she initially was going to give up the baby, John reminds Charlie that he is a heroin addict, to which Charlie immediately states he is a recovering addict. John gives him, I don't believe your bullshit. Look. Okay, swear word number one. In case you're taking note. Okay. Finishing up the episode, we return to Saeed and Shannon in the jungle. She has taken off with Vincent, um, to try and find Walt. It's raining. Um, as Shannon is searching for Walt, Saeed is following her, and eventually they come. She trips, and he immediately, Saeed, such a gentleman, wants to help her up, right? And what ensues is a very emotional scene in which Shannon tells Saeed she really needs him to believe her because everyone in her life has expressed how worthless she is. We've seen all this in flashbacks. She is afraid that Saeed will leave her once they get off the island. He professes his love and that he will never leave her. The forest fills with whispers. The couple both see Walt, who is indicating to them to be quiet. Shannon takes off, and then Saeed follows shortly thereafter to chase after Walt. Bang! Saeed reaches Shannon, and she is bleeding from her abdomen. Holding on dearly to Shannon, Saeed looks up and sees Anna with the raised pistol in her hand. Jen and Michael are speechless. I was too. Anna looks as though her eyes are throwing daggers, to which I say, you bitch. There we go. Swear word number 2, in case you're keeping track.
Oh,
Sorry, had to do the bang because that
no,
just like
that's
came out of nowhere. Was not
mm,
expecting that. So, wow. Wow.
yeah, no, I do remember during my initial watch of this episode, I didn't think that the beta group was that close. And or I didn't realize that, you know, Saeed and Shannon were that far out. Um,
Yeah, I remember Mr. Echo saying that he thought they were about a day. Um, Maybe a little more, maybe a little less. What is confusing about the time frame though is that beta groups in the forest is obviously still daylight as they're going up that kind of ridge with Sawyer in the stretcher, and that's when they lose Cindy. And then almost, immediately we're flashing over to Saeed and Shannon. They're also in the forest, but it is raining cats and dogs, and it's dark. It's obviously like a huge storm has come in, leading to almost like this displaced time continuum or something is going on where it's really hard to pinpoint what time it is of the day. And I
Yeah.
mean, I know, in the tropics, I mean, I've been to Hawaii, where the rain will come up and it gets a little dark, and you immediately, I mean, I don't think you confuse it day for night, but a storm can kind of darken the skies. But to that extent, and I agree with you, I was totally taken aback that they ended up that close together. And the fact that Walt was, I really, it's hard to pinpoint even like what Walt is imagery all about, because he's telling, you know, Saeed and Shannon to be quiet, and yet who's in the neighborhood but the beta group? So was Walt warning Shannon and Saeed about impending danger from the beta group? Or is there others, like we talked in the last episode, about, some mysterious group that we haven't seen, since there's the possibility of other groups on the island that we are unaware of yet. Who owns the whispers, I guess, you know.
Yeah. Walt's appearance is really disturbing because he's constantly got water flowing over his face. His lips are moving, but you can't distinguish what he's saying. So
Yeah.
when he comes up at the end of the episode to cover his mouth for them to be quiet, and then Shannon's immediate reaction is to shout for him and go after him.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, I This was such a powerful episode because of how dreadful Shannon's past was.
Mm-hmm.
Learning the disdain in which her stepmother had for her, and basically kind of her professing that to Saeed towards the end about everyone believing she's not good enough or worthless and she can't do anything. Um, and then with the I don't know, I felt like you were really immersed into this episode with the whispers because they
Mm-hmm.
seemed louder, there was more of them,
Yeah.
and I don't know, this was just a very heavily sensory type of episode. Um, and that end sequence with the facial expressions from Jen and Michael and Saeed
Mm-hmm.
was v- overwhelming. Like I was like starting to almost get like choked up just because of seeing their faces because I was just like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe like." And I don't think I reacted that way when I initially saw it. So I don't know what happened, but um
I feel like Saeed was like getting, based on what we were seeing, right at the end, like almost he was getting up to go after Anna for shooting Shannon. Obviously by accident. They don't
right.
know each other, but I'm like, um, it's muddy. She fell in the mud. Saeed fell in the mud. They're dirty. Everybody's dirty. And I could see them like maybe her mistaking, you know, um, Shannon as an other, but I'm like, I'm sorry. There's yelling going on. How can you not hear Saeed yelling for Shannon, Shannon yelling for Walt, Michael not hearing that she's yelling for Walt? So I'm very curious if we're going to see the other perspective from the beta group. Um, because I really want to know what the hell happened there.
Yeah.
Because I just feel like, what the hell were you doing shooting somebody without really seeing them? And we already know she's only got one bullet, and you shoot a woman who doesn't have a weapon. She's just shouting for a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a problem with that, and it was not the first time that I thought Anna was a bitch. I have not liked her. And this just kind of like, yeah, I really don't like you much.
Yeah, and after last week where I mentioned like I felt like she had softened a little bit, like a little back and forth with Sawyer, and it seemed like she was starting to understand that Sawyer was struggling. But then this
Yes.
episode, she was back to like barking orders and uh telling everyone basically to just shut up and do what she says, and even
Yeah.
like, belittling Mr. Echo, when he's just basically trying to find a way to get them back and get them all back, including
And
Sawyer.
yeah, the fact that he's seeing Sawyer and he's declining health, and like he called for a 5-minute break when nobody else really needed a break, but he knew Sawyer needed one. And good on Sawyer to keep trying. The fact that Michael was helping him, Jen was helping him, irregardless of how Sawyer treats others, people have not lost their faith in his potential. Is kind of what I was reading the room as, that
Yeah,
even though he can be a real, asshole,
yeah.
there are redeeming qualities about him that people see that he's not seeing for himself. His assholiness kind of trips him up when he could be this really very good person. But he makes dick decisions and he doesn't think before he talks. Um, maybe put a filter on it. But
It's like when Libby was talking to him and she he was being smart with her and she was like, "How'd you get shot?" And Michael's the one that came over and said, "Hey, you got shot protecting my kid." Like,
yeah,
so I think that speaks volume because this is after Michael walked up on the conversation when they came back to the beta group, and Sawyer was like, Michael only cares about himself and Walt, you know, and Michael just shows up and Sawyer's surprised. He's like, I didn't think I was going to see you again.
yeah.
Um, so I think,
That's a. Oh, I'm sorry.
no, I was just going to say, I think Michael can kind of see forest through the trees where Sawyer does care about
Yeah,
Michael and Jen and Walt.
yeah,
So him stepping up to say, hey, he got shot protecting my kid.
yeah, yeah. And I think that Michael also realizes how gruff. And again, not having a real filter or kind of thinking before he speaks. But Sawyer wasn't wrong. Michael is out there to find his son. As we're talking, I'm now, I hope Walt isn't dead, but the fact is that we're seeing visions of him, um, and he looks like he's drowning, or because he's so wet and everything. What did happen to Walt? Is this a ghost? That's appearing, that's trying to warn them? Is he a restless ghost? There's so many different things. And because we've had supernatural elements in the show
Yeah.
over the time, I do think that, there could be more there that hopefully we'll find out. With that, I think we're going to take a quick little break and then we'll be back to talk about more scenes, initial thoughts, and then, of course, our questions.
Hey everyone, this is Travis. Just want to say thank you for watching this video as Michelle and I tackle Lost Season 2. And we are in the midst of old and new survivors coming together. What are your thoughts on the season so far? Do you have any favorite moments, a particular character that stands out to you that's your favorite? Drop in the comments and please don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and we'll get back to the chat. It's just that simple.
Welcome back. And kitty cat sighting right away. Yeah, she likes to come in here while at some point when we're on.
We welcome the cats.
We do. Well, I know that this This is your probably fourth or fifth time watching the episode over the years. So, any surprises for you? You said that you had forgotten about this episode. So, anything new pop out for you regarding the episode?
Um, I think what I mentioned before with like kind of an emotional response towards the end, um, feeling right there next to him with the whispers.
Hmm.
Um, I really think this episode is like a lot, like a lot of the episodes, it's just directed very well.
Hmm.
The creators of the show have the camera angles, the shots. I think like even the way that they managed to film them scaling the hill with Sawyer in tow. Um, bing. um, that's such a fantastic sequence because Cindy does get lost in the shuffle. Like she's right there along helping, you
Yeah.
know, and there you see then the shots of each person helping along the way. And, it's kind of like a cycle through where they get back to the bottom, cycle back up. And then when they get to the top and she's nowhere to be seen, that is an outstanding scene. Because I really amplified what the beta group is afraid of.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I recall feeling that strongly about this scene initially. I don't know. But in this watch, I was like, man, that was good. And hearing Libby's just like, as she is realizing what's happened, they start to hear the whisper. And Michael's like, what is that? And
Yeah.
everyone's hearing it. And Libby registers the whispers and she's like, oh God. And Anna like shouts for them to run. It's a very intense scene. Um, Despite essentially, again, we're watching them perform,
Yeah.
and you know, outside of the whispers, we're relying on what the cast is doing. Libby starts looking, and Bernard, he looked freaked out too.
Hmm.
Jen and Michael are like, "What the hell's going on?" So it that was really good. I think it's just also shocking just to see um, Shannon shot. Um, it's and there was no like response. Like I feel like when you watch a movie or TV show, someone gets shot and they like, oh, like they're able to say something or whatever, and there was no communication from her. Like she was just like kind of like grasping at Saeed, um, and that's jarring. Um, and so I did this last week. Can I ask you a question? Like I thought of a third question. Um,
Sure. But
be-
before you do,
yeah.
just wanted to add to that scene where the beta group is climbing up the hill, because they all come together. They're all working hard. They're all focused on getting Sawyer up the hill. And I watched that scene probably about three, four times because I was trying to kind of pinpoint when did Cindy disappear from the group. And there is one kind of long shot from behind them um, looking at them as they're getting up the hill. And you can see Libby, but where Cindy should be is semi cut off because Libby goes to grab the bag that Cindy was carrying, that kind of oversized denim looking bag. And you see Libby, she takes that bag and goes, and hands it up. So Libby was like almost right there and could have been taken too. And I thought, man, this group is really intimidating. This, unknown other group is incredibly stealthy if they're able to take Cindy when she's that close to Libby as they're going up the hill.
Yeah.
And that was terrifying to be that close and to
Yeah.
have, when you're watching the scene to make that, you know, obviously when it was broadcast, you couldn't go back and really analyze the scene.
Yeah.
But even going back and analyzing the scene and the way they cut it, the way they edited the different shots together was really well done. And the fact that you can kind of pinpoint when Cindy's not there anymore, and the fact that Libby was so close and how scared she was because she knows she was down there. I mean, I'm assuming that a lot of why she's frightened is not just the whispers, but knowing that Cindy was right next to her, you know, coming up the hill.
And
So
what's
that was
crazy
scary.
is, there were other opportunities when asked Echo to build the
The stretcher.
the stretcher, thank you.
Hmm.
And he asked Bernard for some sturdy sticks. Um,
Yeah,
and they were all kind of doing, I feel like that could have been a point, but they chose that sequence. And it's like, and you're right, like they are super skilled and able to just either walk freely without being seen or just kind of camouflage in. I don't know what it really does heighten the like like oh shit factor. Like
yeah,
it's definitely a an eye opening because at this point, there's just been speculation.
yeah.
What about Ethan? He was front and center,
Mm-hmm.
like trying to get Claire, and like there was no like invisibility there. Like
Mm-mm.
he he was the person who everyone was like trying to make sure. Uh, Now he did come in through the water the one time to where he attacked one of the survivors, but
Yeah.
this is like a whole other level, which makes you wonder, like you mentioned last week, how many groups are there on this island?
Yeah. I'm counting right now, just my little cheat sheet here, that there's the possibility of basically 7 groups right now. If we have the alpha group, the beta group that we know of, then and they've each discovered the stations, and there's 3. So I'm gonna make assumptions here that there's another group on the island that's found the 3rd station. Now, that group may be the fisherman group, Ethan's group, or the Whisperers group, or Rousseau's team from 16 years before. So there's a lot of potential groups running around on the island.
Yeah. Um, and and that also begs the question of like, how big is this island? Like,
Hmm.
how how large is it? Because we're watching Beta Team traverse however long they are trying to get back to Michael, Jen, and Sawyer's camp. Um, and where they were, they say it's still about a day or so before they even get there. And we don't really know how long they've been going to get to the point where they were when they said that. So,
Yeah,
um, I feel like the island is still the the geography of the land is still a mystery, let alone the uh whispers and the smoke and the number of
hmm,
groups. So um, I think all of that blended together, and then you just get all of that wrapped together in this episode with the
yeah,
turmoil and you know, I felt really bad for Shannon this episode, um,
I did too.
because I feel like if you go back and think about the previous season and how she was coping with the plane crash and trying to just like you know find a way to be comfortable. And if I think about it, there's probably were people who thought of Shannon that way. And and she's probably used to hearing it more than from just her stepmother and even Boone. And when Saeed's not believing her, it's like just the ultimate, you know, she just, I think it just all that crushes her. And when he does
I
believe
think
her, I
so.
think it's like kind of like just a huge sigh of relief for her.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you notice in the flashbacks, obviously we had Boone because Shannon's story is tied up with Boone. But when they're at the hospital, did you see Jack?
No, was he in there?
He was.
Ah, I missed
When
him.
Shannon and the stepmom are in the hallway when they first meet the surgeon, um, they start to walk and a doctor comes through. That's Jack.
Oh, totally missed that.
Yep, yep. So we
Yeah,
we we had more ties, which make it so interesting. Well, how does this, how do all these people tie together? Because we see Jack, show up, or Hurley will be on the television. Just a lot of different things. Sawyer meeting Jack's dad. Um,
yeah,
Lots of, uh, you know, things that seem like a coincidence, but now, are they really? You know, so.
yeah. I was going to ask you a third question, but we're talking about Shannon and mentioned the stepmom. What?
Oh, well, ask your question.
Well, my question was based around Shannon being shot and how, how shocking was it for you? And what was your opinion of her status at the end of the episode?
Oh gosh, yeah. So I was totally shocked that she had been shot. I was not expecting that. Um, I'm given the fact of how the episode ends and she's shot. I'm so thankful that Saeed believed her prior to them seeing Walt, because that meant it was really coming from the heart rather than him saying, "Oh, I see Walt. Okay, I believe you." That kind of, the
Yeah,
the the sequence of events made it so that it's believable that he wasn't just kind of giving her maybe lip service,
yeah,
that he really was Saeed's character, was really in love with Shannon. Um, and that I think in the moment he truly believed that he was not going to leave her side. And we'd seen that through all of her pushing him away, he still continued to be there for her, irregardless. Um, which I think, speaks volumes, and sometimes there's a lot of quietness about the emotions that are going on. Regarding the flashbacks and where Shannon was at, she was only 18 when her dad died. And just from the clues that we had prior to this episode, obviously Boone was the favorite because that was the mother's son, the
hmm yeah,
stepmom's real son. So obviously it's all about what the stepmom gets and what her son gets. And Shannon is like Cinderella in the story. And the fact that the mother and her never got along, and she even says, I don't understand their relationship, is saying it, basically thinking that Shannon gets everything she wants. But I kind of feel like, yeah, maybe, probably, but they also had money, so that's not an unusual thing. um I could see maybe harnessing her finances if she was older but she was only 18
Yeah.
when her dad died. So to me, I'm kind of like, she's just learning to become an adult and learning to start doing things on her own, which she obviously was doing. She applied for a dance school. She got in, she got accepted to something that was prestigious. And that, you know, I was sad that they kind of, they put some importance on it, but it was downplayed because of all the other things that were going on. But
Yeah.
the fact that the mother was so callous, stepmom was so callous about, oh, well, as soon as the dad was dead, boom, you're on your own.
She couldn't wait.
Yeah, I just couldn't wait to take it all. And that was the other time when I was like, oh, you bitch.
That was my curse moment for let me see,
Yeah.
how did I phrase it? Um let's see. Come on, where did I put it? Uh when she when Shannon is pleading with her after learning that there's no money for her, which seems absolutely
I
bizarre.
just, yeah.
And one, why did the father like not why was he okay with a marrying someone who clearly had no interest in his daughter? It's reminded me of Walt's mom a little bit, and was it
Mhm.
Brian?
Brian. Mm-hmm.
And Brian didn't have any interest in Walt, and clearly this stepmom had no interest. And when
Mm-hmm.
she says you're on your own, I said her stepmother is a piece of shit. It's like, I mean, she almost looked gleeful to kind of get that off her chest and
Well, and
to
she only had
basically
10
stick
minutes
it to
for
her.
her. Um,
Yeah.
you know, uh, at the hospital when she clarifies to the doctor, stepdaughter, I'm like, that speaks
Oh,
volumes right there. And I'm like,
who
yeah,
does that?
I honestly believe the living will was probably, yes, that probably happened. And that stepmom probably said, I will take care of
Uh,
Shannon.
yeah.
Gave the whole lip service, but as soon as the dad was gone, got rid of her. Oh, because boy, she could give Boone a job, and she wouldn't even listen to the fact that Shannon, needed to get to New York to have this opportunity. Yeah, it's an internship, but she's 18. Of course, it's going to be an unpaid deal.
Yeah.
It's to gain experience. So then she can move on and then get money because she'll have the experience.
Now,
And
oh, go ahead.
no, that was it. That was,
I felt like she gave Boone the job, so Boone would move out of New York so he couldn't help her.
mm-hmm. Yep, exactly. Yep.
Oh,
Oh
wicked
yeah,
stepmother indeed.
calculating, callous, cold bitch.
Mm,
Yes.
preach.
And I have in my notes of initial thoughts, it seems like every survivor's parent in the flashbacks are completely despicable.
Oh, oh,
Like
yeah.
Jack's father is, an asshole to Jack his entire, growing up. Hurley's mother is just, berates him all the time. Shannon's stepmom, even Boone is taken care of by his mom, but even Boone is like the older brother controlling. We don't know
Yep.
about Charlie's parents, but there's that. We know Claire didn't seem to have family, because she was on her own when she was pregnant. Yeah, just anybody that was like a guardian or in a parental role, um, are just completely despicable. Even for John, older fellow John, his mother and I guess his bio dad. you know. Totally despicable,
Yeah.
absolutely awful.
I'm trying to think of the only bright light of a parent I can think of is which is I feel like ironic because Sawyer's mom protects him in the end by telling him, hide under the bed, we'll pretend that you're spending the night somewhere else.
Yeah,
And she basically saves him.
yeah,
And that's the only I think that's the only good thing I can think a parent did on this show. Um,
yeah, because we don't really know anything about Kate.
her
We don't
mom
know
like
her.
was in the
Oh, her mom
hospital and
was hostile.
called for help or something.
Yep, that's right. That's right. Who else we have? Jin and Sun.
Oh,
Well,
Jin's dad.
Jin's dad is actually okay and tells him, "Hey, if you go to America and disappear, I completely understand." He supports him. But then
Okay, Jin
Sun's
had a good.
family are trying to matchmake and get rid of her.
Oh, yeah, Jin's father's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so
So,
that's good.
yeah, so those examples are few and far between. And even though Hugo is like or Hurley, it's questionable about his decision making, but at the end, he still wants to take care of his family when he wins the lottery. So,
Yeah. Oof.
yeah, I just found, I'm like, wow, there's just not a whole lot of parental role models that are, stellar out there you know, that are not causing, extreme dysfunction somewhere along the way.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point because I feel like when you're watching the episodes, it feels like more of an isolated incident because you're only seeing it one at a time. But yeah,
Yeah.
if you think about it all together, man, those survivors are effed up. Jeez. So yeah, that's a I don't think I ever well, I don't think I've ever quantified the I guess the guardianship of the survivors in that way before.
Yeah.
Yeah. No wonder they're all kind of, damaged in their own way. And
Which
but we
makes you
still find
wonder.
them likable.
Oh,
Like
yeah. Yeah, definitely.
like
Speaking of
seeing Sawyer
likable,
fall down was just like brutal.
oh yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, when he passed out, I thought, oh my gosh, two potential death scenes. Well, I'm gonna make assumptions that Shannon not making it. But that Sawyer will hopefully make it when they get, to Jack, and that I'm thinking that there's enough herbs on the island that'll be able to help cure him from the infection that he has,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. But, just the fact that you had two really tense-filled death scene moments in the episode where we haven't really had anything for a little while.
Yeah.
We have people go missing, but it's it's jarring, but it's like it's almost hard to like really say they're gone because you don't know if they're really gone. Is Cindy really gone? We don't know. Is
Yeah.
Walt really gone? Based on what Shannon has seen, m- maybe? Or he's back on the island and somehow he's projecting himself because this is a mysterious island. So, yeah. But I did, that said, one of my other initial thoughts that I had is the fact that I definitely liked the balance and kind of down to earth personality of Mr. Echo and the fact that he's really he seems to be very caring,
Yeah.
and very astute with regards to other people in the party. Um, and that he felt that it was worth putting the beta group at risk for Sawyer to try to get him back to the camp as
Yeah.
quickly as possible. And that could be that, Echo has seen a lot of death already. and survivorship, sees value in Sawyer surviving. That Anna, bitch, is not seeing, is refusing to see right now. In fact, I
Yeah.
called her a royal bitch.
I sh she's I mean, she is unhinged in this episode.
Yeah. I almost think we need to have another category, least favorite character of the episode.
Hey.
She'd be right up there with the stepmom, that's for sure.
Oof. Yeah.
Yeah. And
It'd
of
be a
course,
tough
I
call.
I definitely liked seeing more of John. The fact that we got to see more gentle John. That's in my initial kind of observations. The fact that we got to see more of him and seeing him, softer him. Um,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, he's definitely on my list of favorites of the episode, of potential favorites. Just because he's great. He's great. I
yeah.
mean, and there's no other way to say it. He's fantastic.
Oh yeah.
Um, so um,
Well, and since we're talking about characters, and since you've revealed that John is on your list, he is on mine as well. So, should we kind of turn our attention to our favorite character of the episode? And if so, how many honorable mentions do you have on your list?
I had never landed on one specifically, but I'm gonna
Okay.
go with the one that maybe I was leaning most toward. So I have
Okay.
four honorable mentions.
Okay, I had three.
Um, so we both mentioned Locke.
Yes.
Um, one of my honorable mentions is Walt, just
Oh, okay.
because, like, like you said, how is he on the island? Is it a projection?
Hmm.
Is did something happen to him? Like, is he ghost? Like, what is it? So it's fascinating to
Hmm.
have that again, layered mystery. Um, do you want to go with another honorable mention for you? We'll go back and
Sure.
forth.
For me, obviously, Mr. Echo. I thought that, he had a fair amount of screen time where I felt that kind of taking everything that I was seeing about him through the episode, I felt that he's definitely an honorable mention again this week. Um, just showing a bit more depth to what he's about and how he is so grounded and balances out the chaotic, irrational, controlling bitch that Anna is.
Yeah, I should have had him on my list. I don't know why I didn't.
Shame on you. But that's okay. There's more weeks, I'm assuming, in which he could land on your list. So,
Yeah. Um, I also mentioned Jin just because of his steadfast, like him trying to basically walk Sawyer the entire way by himself. Even when Bernard asked for help, he's like, no. And like he just I don't know, just we mentioned last week. Just this unbreakable loyalty. Um
mhm.
uh yeah, short and sweet. That's all I got for Jin as
Okay.
far as another honorable mention.
Another honorable mention for me, which will probably reveal my top pick, but I went with Saeed as a honorable mention. He had great scenes and pretty emotional scenes that he had, showing kind of the range of, romantic disbelief, in awe of, you know, the fact that Shannon was telling the truth, or they're both having the same vision, shared vision. So I went with him as a honorable mention. And of course, the look at the end of the episode, just wow, that said a
Yeah.
lot right there. So,
Yeah. So my next honorable mention should probably be my top one.
okay,
Um, my last honorable mention is Shannon.
okay,
She should probably get it for this being her episode. Um, but I went with Michael
Oh.
because I felt like he was actually able to finally get the beta group to reveal what had them so amped up.
Hmm.
And I felt like he was the vocal support for Sawyer and asking for help. And I think that him doing that, you also saw Bernard speak up after Michael to say, well, we can't just leave him here. Like, and Libby was wanting to help and Echo. And so I thought Michael was great at kind of deciphering or unraveling
Hmm.
what the beta group has been afraid of, to when Anna finally tells them what happened uh, on the first night and then 2 weeks later. So I that's why I put him at the top, just because he was actually able to kind of unravel that onion a little bit more for the
Hmm.
story. So I appreciated that.
Yeah. I went with Shannon because I figured this might be my last shot. Um, no pun intended. Um, my last opportunity for Shannon to shine and her vulnerability in many different facets of her life, and being able to have the strength um, to come to terms and vocalize to someone that you care about how her life has been, one disappointment after another, um, on other people, but also the fact that she's internalized all these feelings that she's worthless and how scared she really is. And that all the external manifestations of that fear have been her pushing people away, not accepting the situation and things like that. And I felt like for me, all those prior things that we've seen about Shannon really come together as and give meaning of why she behaved that she behaved in all these episodes leading up to this point.
Yeah.
And really, I think speaks to the power of how unfortunate it is that, her life is cut short, I'm assuming, um, and that she's not going to get to explore her believing in her, the value that she brings to her life and to others around her. And that's really tragic. So I gave it to her.
Yeah.
Ready to talk about our favorite scene, which I'm sure is, we might diverge a little on this, given our favorite characters that we've just discussed. I guess, well, I'll let you start, Travis, about what might be one of your honorable mentions, because you probably have at least a short list, or maybe a long list.
I was able to narrow down to five total.
Oh, good. I did
Um,
four
uh,
total.
so um, the one scene, the hill scene is an honorable mention. The one where Cindy disappears.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I won't belabor it too much, but I just feel like it just really gave us a sense of why, like when the beta group exchange looks, when they're asked what happens, and there's kind of just this unspoken horrible reality. Like, you know, they're probably tired of talking about it. And and honestly, if they don't really know who they are,
Mm-hmm.
it's not much that they can say other than the fact that people have been hijacked from their camp. And I think they said three on the first day. And um,
9 on
yeah,
the 2 weeks later. Yeah.
yeah. So that sequence was just really well done. And it just it just opens up some more questions to like who are they? Like you mentioned, where is Cindy? What happened to her? Is she still alive? So that I think that scene that carries a lot of weight for the story's narrative. So
Yeah. One of my honorable mentions is one that you actually mentioned before, and that's Michael coming to Sawyer's aid, and vocalizing that that the group, he was not planning to leave Sawyer behind, which I thought was pretty powerful, given the fact that, like you said, he was bucking the group, at least Anna, who's the leader. Um, and the fact that, Michael kind of called the shots there, and
yeah,
Echo got behind Michael, I think is telling about Michael. And like you said, he was your favorite character of the episode because of what he was able to do as, with that group and be able to have them reveal some of the backstory. Um, but also the fact that, like you said, the others rallied behind him. And he, you know, had some empowerment there. It also leads me to think about what's going to happen with the power dynamics when Beta Group gets with Alpha Group, because, you know, Jack is the reluctant leader, and Anna seems to, I don't know. I would say that she necessarily revels in the power, but she is obviously the leader. So I am kind of curious how she became leader of the group, and not just because she's female or anything like that, but just her as a character, you know, how did she end up being the leader? Because she's an,
kind of
no
just takes
nonsense.
charge.
Yeah. And I'm like, that's not enough to kind of take leadership. She's not, you'd almost kind of think like, well, Mr. Echo, because he's bigger in stature and he's more menacing than she is. But yeah, it does lead me to wonder how did she become leader? And ultimately, what's that going to do power dynamics when they do all end up together in the same place?
Yeah.
Uh, for Alpha and the Beta group, because will Jack stand up to her and decide, no, I'm the leader of this group? Or is he gonna kind of let her lead? Because, he has been the reluctant leader. Um, what will John do? Will he decide that I'm gonna be the leader? Lots of unknowns. And lots of, I'm sure, clashes of personality dynamics to come on the horizon.
And it'd be interesting to know if there's any revelations on Anna's mindset. Is
Hmm.
she expecting to come to their camp just to be like, relinquish and be like, okay, I don't have to like be responsible for
That's
anyone?
true. Yeah.
Or is she going to be like, no, 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 no. I've seen the other side of the island and what they are, what they're capable of. And will that make her feel like she needs to like be in control? So I'm really curious to know if
Hmm.
that aspect is displayed in the episodes.
Yeah, I didn't, I obviously just seen her very rough, but that's a good point that she may be more than happy to relinquish that control once the people that she feels, invested in making sure that they survive, given all that they've gone through the first, month or more that they've been on the island, all that they've been through, and the fact that, she may feel, okay, I got you to safety because we're now with this other group. So,
Yeah.
I am kind of curious if they haven't encountered other groups. I mean, one thing that I thought about was the fact that when Saeed went on his little walkabout in season one, early in season one, that he was gone for a little while. So I do kind of wonder geographically, like where was Beta Group? Because there were a couple of places where I almost thought they looked familiar. Like when they get when the Beta Group gets to the ocean, I do kind of feel like that was the same spot that the small Alpha Group got to when they were headed inward to um, the boat with the dynamite.
Yes.
Black Rock.
It did look similar to that. Yes.
Yeah, and so I did kind of wonder, like, that sort of looks familiar. But it's very hard to tell. So I'm curious, just like you, what's going to
Yeah.
happen there.
And I did have that scene with Michael, kind of taking charge. That was one of my honorable mentions as well. Um, I really liked Michael's stance and not abandoning Sawyer, like you said, and just seeing
Hmm.
other people speak up, being like, we can't leave him here. Like
Yeah.
that's not the right thing to do, to
Although
leave.
when they all took off running, Sawyer wasn't running. So I
Yeah,
do
that
kind of
I
wonder,
do
like,
wonder how that worked out. They managed somehow, but
I am kind of curious about how that continuity is going to work in the next episode. So.
yeah. Um, so let me see.
I
See.
think I think you've had two, I've had one, and now I think I'll go because you've had the two, and now I think we're kind of like on even
Yeah.
because I think you had five, I had four. So one of my other ones is Mr. Echo basically seeing that Sawyer was struggling. And so it's kind of a couple of scenes where, you know, Mr. Echo suddenly decides, well, we're going to have a 5 minute break, knowing that that'll give Sawyer a chance to kind of have some needed rest.
And gives
Uh,
them water.
yeah, and passes him the water before he even takes any. And the fact that he made the decision to shift course, uh, as they head back to the Alpha camp, even though, Anna says, you're willing to put this group at risk for Sawyer, who is dead already, basically, is I think
She
what she
gave him a
said.
bunch of nicknames too.
Yeah. Yeah, Sawyer got some nicknames. Payback's a bitch, I guess, sometimes. He was Redhead, and other things. So, yeah.
Redneck, hick,
Yep.
cowboy.
Cowboy. Yep. Yep.
She called him dead already. Like she assumed that he's,
Yep.
yeah.
Dead man walking. So, yep. So those couple of scenes kind of put together were honorable mention for me. How about
And
for you?
Echo, well, just to highlight that scene where they're at
Hmm.
he points out the peninsula and that he doesn't know if you'll be able to continue along that way,
Yeah.
and when she confronts him about it, and he just says, it's the only way I know. Like, I think that was his way of saying, I think this is the right decision to not, one, go on a path where we might have to backtrack. And two, probably most
Sure.
importantly, I am trying to get him back faster. Like,
Yeah.
and he's struggling to like climb up over these rocks. Like,
Yeah.
um, so yeah, I should have had him on my list of, yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
My my next scene. Um oh, so I think what I'm gonna do, two of the scenes I think are actually that I have listed are actually all part of one big scene.
Okay.
And I'm gonna make that my uh favorite. So I'll say my last honorable mention. I
Okay.
love the scene with Locke and Claire and
Yeah.
him swaddling the baby,
Yeah.
him him whispering once the baby's asleep and he doesn't want to wake her up or wake him up. And this when she asks him if he wants to hold her, he's like no. And she tells him to put his hands out and he's just like he's like
Yeah. And then
so
he's like,
nervous.
yeah.
He's so nervous, and it's such a sweet scene
Yeah.
because I think that's something that we don't get to see out of many of the characters on this show. That something as simple or maybe, shouldn't be a heavy task of holding a baby can kind of show how vulnerable the characters are just
Yeah.
because he's afraid to hold the baby. Like he's unsure of himself in that way. And I'm sure there are people all the time like, oh, I can't hold the baby. No, you don't want me holding the baby. I'm too nervous, or I don't know
Might
how to
break the
hold.
baby, might drop the
Right,
baby.
right.
Yeah.
And seeing that play out, is completely believable.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
and even when he like smells the baby's head and says he smells good. And she's like, he does, doesn't he? And it's like, that's a real thing. That is totally a
Yeah.
real thing.
I totally felt like it was a real, I don't want to say ad-libbed because I don't think that they're ad-libbing. I think everything's very calculated, but it felt very natural. So that
Absolutely.
scene was also on my honorable mentions because I did like seeing a gentle John again. And I really liked Claire and John's chemistry with the cradle and the fact
Yeah.
that they got to know each other, the fact that she told him, confided in him that she had thought about giving up the baby and was very close to giving up the baby. And it just very sweet, tender moments. It was nice to see that again between John and Claire kind of reconnect and that he did get to hold the baby and the fact that he was kind of nervous and yet somehow he knew about swaddling the baby was gonna make a difference for the baby, that they like to be kind of constricted, and I guess that kind of makes sense. They're in the womb, they're all tightly, and that they want that same comfort, when they're newborns and stuff. So I really like that scene.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's hard not to look at that scene. I mean, as I've experienced that where my kids and like most kids, they like to be swaddled. Like that's a thing.
Yeah,
Um, and I like that John knows that. And it's
yeah,
like, how does John know that? And he's just Mr. Knowledge. He he seems to know
he
all
does.
of these different types of things. So yeah, it's a great scene. Again, that provides a little bit of lightheartedness to the
Hmm.
tension brought in this episode. Um, my favorite scene that I put in, it's just the last scene essentially where you have, you know, Shannon and Saeed talking on the ground where she's pleading with him, you know, it's she's begging him, I need you to believe me. And
Yeah,
she's afraid that he's just going to leave her and that he believes she's worthless and all of these things. And for him to admit how he feels about her.
yeah.
And like you said, I totally agree. I like that there was that admission of his feelings and him believing her before the whispers. And that's a
Hmm.
continuation of the scene for me. Or that's how I connected the dots now. The whispers and seeing Walt,
Hmm.
and the fact that you see Saeed, he is fixated on Walt. And he was like, and she asks if he can see it, and he just kind of like nods. And
Hmm.
it's such a great sequence of events because when she runs off after him, he he doesn't follow right away because he's almost stunned. Or that's how I feel because
That's
I feel
true.
like I was
Yeah.
right there with him. Like he's just like trapped in like I just saw Walt and Shannon was right. And oh crap, Shannon, like I gotta go after
Yeah,
her.
she's already taken off, and he's like
Yeah.
runs after her, and of course he falls down, which allows her to get even a little further ahead, and why he's not there, and he only hears the gunshot, um, which is just, I'm like, where's that gunshot coming from? totally not thinking that it's going to be Anna and her group.
And so yeah, and because this scene, I could just wrap it all into one and it continues. And again,
Yeah,
I'll say it, the expressions on Jin, Michael, and Saeed's face
yeah.
is everything. Um, it is so moving. It's so the tension's so palpable. And you brought it up earlier where it looked like Saeed's rising up, and they cut to black as he's doing that, which really effective. Um,
Hmm.
I could probably dissect that whole sequence for another hour, uh, which is why I had that at the top.
Yeah. Well, that is my top as well. I mean, I think I gave it away because Shannon was my top fave, as well as Saeed being, the second on my list. So it was that scene, Why Don't You Believe Me? Scene between her and Saeed, and just how that culminates into this whole lead up from the flashbacks and their, connection and discord and, why she's behaving the way that she is, and the fact that here's someone that I think she cares about, even though we don't hear her return his affections. She doesn't say, I love you back. But the fact that, someone that loves her actually believes in her. And then, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he's totally surprised when he sees Walt. He's just like dumbfounded, I think, in the moment that, like, well, I said I believed her, but now I really believe her because I'm actually seeing it. You
Yeah.
know, I'm actually seeing Walt.
I mean, the
So,
whole scene is believing thing. Like,
yeah. Well, and isn't Shannon the only one that's been seeing Walt, if I remember correctly?
yeah, I think there was one other time when in an earlier episode she went chasing after Vincent the dog,
Mm-hmm.
and I think Saeed either raced ahead and they got separated, and then she saw him. So I think she is the only one who has seen him. Um, which also begs the question, is the bond that they shared at the end of season one, is that why Walt is coming to her specifically? Is there another reason?
Yeah.
Um, but and I was also thinking about the whispers. Um, Saeed in this episode, is he the only one to have heard the whispers on the Alpha group? Did Sawyer hear it once? While he was chasing the boar?
I was trying to think about that because I was kind of surprised when Michael and Jun were not familiar with the whispers. And then I got to thinking, well, we know Saeed had heard the whispers for sure. I think Jack may have just before seeing his dad or right around the time when he saw his dad. And then I thought Hurley actually heard the whispers
Okay.
when they went, oh, repeat uh appearance of Cleo, a resident black cat. Um, I thought that Hurley also heard the whispers when he was going off to find Russo in the forest. I thought
Okay.
he had heard the whispers. So it was kind of funny. Things pop up and then I like how the writers they put it in there, but it's such a small little thing that you are kind of questioning, well, who heard, who saw, who
Yeah.
knew? Because in the last episode, I had thought and remembered incorrectly that Kate knew about the bottle. but it was actually Shannon who knew about the bottle because she found it. She gave the bottle to Sun, but that didn't involve Kate. So then I was like, oh, Kate didn't know about the bottle. No wonder why she was wanting to see the bottle, because she wanted to see if Sawyer had a message in there.
Right.
Um, and then the fact of then, oh, Saeed didn't know about. So, I kind of think that's effective because the writers do definitely keep us off cadence, and we're just kind of awkwardly out of step, trying to get in step, which I think works for the show, because we are always like trying to second guess and trying to remember and, thinking again, the fact that this was a show that was broadcast once a week, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, if we had the time, I mean, we might be talking and recording every day or two, and seeing it in a much more quick succession than the way it was originally broadcast. So it would be easy to lose some of those details along the way, which makes
Yeah.
it even more interesting because then you have that resonance, how memory resonance, how much do you retain between one episode and the next, or one season and the next, which I think also plays into the way that they originally broadcast the show.
Yeah.
Uh,
And the
so,
fact that you're only getting usually one character focus with the flashbacks.
hmm
Um, and with what we know of the first season, it seemed like, oh, Jack keeps secrets, or the small group, Jack, Kate,
hmm
John, like, and there's some argument back and forth about keeping secrets or whatever. But now knowing that there are other survivors who are compartmentalizing information,
yeah.
and that enhances the, wait, who said what? Who grabbed
hmm
what? It does make it hard to follow, but it's not unpleasant. It just seems like that's you know, kind of a natural response to their situation of like, well, we don't
hmm
want to freak everyone out by saying I found the bottle.
Yeah.
Um, and then that's why so few people know about it. And I guess that's kind of how it works with all these different elements of the show.
Yeah.
Um, and I'll say I don't think they're going to be able to keep what happened to Shannon quiet. Uh,
Nope, I think
and
they're going to have another funeral here at some point, unfortunately.
uh,
I think, we haven't really talked about it. Well, I mean, I know we'll talk about it, when we actually see a funeral and she's actually gone. But in anticipation, I'm really sad about that because I did like her character. Um, I liked her growth and change and, what the dynamic that she was bringing to the group as far as some of like she knew French, wasn't great at it, but she was able to bring that to the group. And, it severs the tie of both her and what we had with Boone, and now that it's like that whole family tree, so to speak, if we look at this as a tree and all these different characters and how they're connecting,
yeah,
it's like that branch is now or will be severed and we won't have that. Which is sad, and sad for Saeed because how is he going to handle that when he struggled to open up and to get past Nadja? I think that was her name. Um, and to get
yeah,
past I think it's not John. Well, anyway,
yeah, yeah,
getting past the how he felt about her, and
yeah.
even to a degree how he felt about Danielle, and then to connect with Shannon, and now she's gone. Or I'm gonna I'm assuming she's gone without, having seen that yet. Maybe she'll make a full recovery.
I mean, depending, yeah, obviously, depending on what does happen with Shannon, Saeed seems to be, I don't want to say destined for this, but he's had some awful luck. Like, how
Yeah.
long did he spent looking for that woman? Like his,
Years, I
not, yeah, I
think.
mean, yeah,
A
and
number of
like
years.
you said, for him to open up finally,
Yeah.
and then for this to happen, and so it will. I am interested to see, well, one, his reaction after he stands up fully, uh,
Yeah.
and then, you know, pending what does happen with Shannon, how will that ultimately affect Saeed's character? Because he has seemed, we've talked about it, he has seemed like the most level-headed overall, and
Hmm.
definitely seems like he could potentially or should be the leader of the group, based on what he is capable of, what he brings to the table as a leader, and his skill set and his knowledge. And but it, the end of this episode, it just makes you wonder, well, where do we go from here? Um,
Yeah.
and how will this incident, you know, possibly rupture the relationship between Beta and Alpha? You know,
Yeah.
will will this cast the stink on everyone in Beta? Is it specifically just going to be Anna with her pulling the trigger?
Yeah.
So a lot of questions.
Yeah, and and I'm thinking, well, Saeed's always been pretty level-headed. He's been the one that's kind of brings a lot of rationality to things, calls out things like, hey, we should have a detail on water, we should have detail on the gathering of food, a detail on keeping a fire burning on the beach and stuff like that. So he has the survival skills that do kind of lend him being a leader. Now, the fact that he loved Shannon, is that love going to cloud his rationality that Anna did it in self-defense and it was an accidental shooting because she was under the impression it was an other that was coming through the bush.
Right.
So, is he going to be able to rationalize and, using your word, compartmentalize his loss of Shannon to the fact that, to see the bigger picture? Or is he going to succumb to, irrationality due to the love that he has for Shannon?
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see because, like you said, what's that going to do with the dynamic? And we know that Jack, um, is does protect his group. How's he going to feel about the loss of her? He wasn't directly involved, but even if Saeed is able to get her back to the camp, most likely Jack is not going to be able to, um, you know, um, operate on her given their circumstances. She does have an abdominal shot, which is pretty fatal. So,
And if that's the case, we know how badly he took, you know, not being able to like save Boone. And if he's put in the same situation again, you know,
yeah,
so yeah, there's a lot of potential grief to go around depending
yeah,
on how it plays out.
yeah. Are there any other scenes or characters that we haven't spent some time on in our discussion?
Um, well, I guess just I'll say briefly, you joked about maybe doing the least favorite characters.
Yeah.
Well, clearly for me, I just despise the stepmother. I know what I know what Anna did, but I'll add a third person in there. Wasn't too fond of Charlie in this episode.
Yeah, he was kind of a jerk.
Yeah, basically calling Claire a bad mom. Like, dude, what are
Yeah.
you doing?
Yeah, and I'm like, Aaron's not your son. You didn't have any part of the making of Aaron, and yet somehow you've become really protective of the son and by extension, Claire. Like, you should be protecting Claire so Claire can protect her son. It's nice that, obviously he's invested because, like, he comes over so, she can go for her walk so she can get a break from caring for Aaron, which is very nice. But yeah, the fact that he then later badmouths her motherhood
Yeah,
to John was bad form, really bad form. I'm just like, what
totally.
the hell are you doing, Charlie? Why are you casting stones?
Yeah, he seems irritable and um I don't know. I just don't like him saying that she has a lot to learn about being like, dude, like one, you're not even a woman. You're not gonna be a mom who gives birth. Like
Yeah.
I was really struggling to understand like why he's driving that point to Locke. Like it is very bizarre and not good form whatsoever.
Yeah, this is where I worry a little bit about the players and what the players have to do. Is this the writer starting to show some cracks in the Charlie veneer that's going to lead to backsliding? Because we know that he's had that Virgin Mary statue with the drugs in it. And he hasn't seemed to feel like he needs it or anything. He seems to have been able to acclimate into a recovery phase of his drug addiction. Are we now going to be led down where he has a backslides? And I would really be bothered if they bring that up again, just because I think there's other things on the island that could be explored rather than his backsliding of his addiction.
Yeah.
Um, so I am cautiously concerned about whether they're going to use that as part of the storyline, and if so, how they bring it about. And I'm really kind of hoping they don't.
Yeah.
That's just me. I feel like is that kind of forcing where everything has been kind of naturally progressing in the storytelling. Well, this feel a little bit forced, and that I worry a little bit about that. Second
Yeah.
seasons where things become great formula in the first season, very successful, but when you try to repeat it into the second season, ultimately is that going to lead to the demise of the storytelling?
Yeah.
So I will not lie, I'm a little worried about that.
Yeah. I mean, especially since it seemed like Claire and Charlie were very they were just seemed like they were happy with whatever relationship was growing. And
Yeah.
then just to like catapult into this kind of weird,
Controlling
yeah,
behavior, especially
yeah,
after they bonded over the peanut butter in the last episode or the
yeah,
episode before. But they bonded over peanut butter recently. So, that was not a marriage. And I mean, Claire even kind of vocalizes, we're not married. When did that kind of dynamic between them occur? Because she's not there, but
yeah,
somehow Charlie's up here. So is that the addiction aspects of his personality that are starting to show through. And if they play it that way, then I think it could work. But, I
Yeah.
just, we'll see. We'll see. So,
Okay.
well, we are about at the end of our time. So just want to express again, thank you for joining us today as we discuss episode 6 of season 2 of Lost, called Abandon. If you have time and want to, please leave a comment. Who's your favorite character? Who's your least favorite character? And what was your favorite scene? Obviously, if you do have spoilers beyond this episode, please definitely write in there that it's a spoiler alert. And we do hope you join us next week. Obviously, please subscribe, hit that notification bell, so that way you can follow along in our journey. And I think that's it. Thank you so much, everyone, for hanging out with us today.